Hello, I'd like to start with a question. Where is the most congested part of the national trunk road network? The M25 London orbital crosses from Kent into Essex across the River Thames at Dartford. It was here that the sat-nav people, TomTom, found the slowest running traffic in the whole national system. They found speeds down to 8 miles an hour. Now, the design speed for the M25 is 70 miles an hour. So you can see that 8 miles an hour is only about 11% of this. Try to put this in perspective. If your central heating system at home was only giving out just a little bit more than 10% of its design capacity, you'd be on the phone to your plumber asking him to come. And if it was the winter, you'd say, "Come quickly, I have an emergency." If you were out in your car and its performance fell to 1/10 of normal, you'd be standing beside the road waiting for the AA to come and sort you out. In both these cases, you would say it was an emergency. So it's not unreasonable, if we think in normal terms, to say of the Dartford crossing problem that it's a near emergency. And because of this, of course, the government asked Highways England if they could find a solution to this problem. Highways England are the government authority that supervises all the trunk routes in the country. Highways England considered several alternatives, and eventually they decided on the one which they considered to be the best. What is this alternative? Well, it's a second crossing of the River Thames about 10 miles downstream from Dartford to the east of Gravesend. Now, is it a solution to the Dartford problem? Well, the answer is no, it isn't. Why? Well, Highways England forecasts the flow across the existing crossing is going to steadily escalate. Now, the purpose of this new crossing is obviously to divert some of the traffic that otherwise would cross at the existing crossing to the new crossing. Now, this new crossing is going to take best part of 10 years to create. And during those 10 years, of course, the traffic conditions will get steadily worse. Now, the amount that Highways England forecasts this new crossing will divert from the existing crossing is actually quite small. In fact, it's fairly similar to the increase in traffic which will have occurred over the 10 years. So you can see, what is it they're offering us? They're offering us the current emergency, 10 years of increasing emergency, back to the original emergency, and then increasing emergency forever. This clearly is not a solution to the Dartford crossing problem. Is there a solution to the Dartford crossing problem? Oh, yes, there is. Actually, the solution is rather difficult, because if you merely increase the capacity of the Dartford crossing itself, you don't do much, because both the north and the south are major traffic junctions. If you increase the crossing capacity, you merely clog up these junctions, and you don't do much good. So what is the answer? The answer is a bypass. A bypass which bypasses both the crossing and these two major junctions. Now, a bypass in the conventional sense isn't a practical proposition. But what would achieve exactly the same effect is a long twin-bored tunnel. The tunnel required will be about 6.5 miles long, would start well back in Kent and go well on into Essex and bypass all this congestion in between. Now, Highways England tell us that the traffic at the existing crossing can be divided into two components. 40% of it is what we might call through traffic. That is trunk road traffic that's attempting to use the M25 as a trunk route. And then there's the remainder of the traffic is local traffic, trying to get from Kent into Essex and from Essex into Kent. Now, obviously, if we can separate these two components, we'd be doing some good. And of course, the long tunnels would do just that, because the through traffic would use the tunnels, the local traffic would use the existing crossing, which would begin to work again. So this looks like a very good solution to the problem. Now, in comparing these long tunnel proposals with Highway England's downstream proposals, we could consider several other factors. So if we start with, say, the ecological factors, as we might call them, clearly the downstream proposal chews up large parts of the green belt in Kent and Sussex and disturbs several villages. The tunnel does none of these, so the tunnel is clearly best. Then we might consider disruption during construction. Again, the downstream proposal includes the modification of many existing road junctions. These would all be subject to delay during construction. None of this applies to the tunnel because, to a great degree, nobody would know the tunnel was being built. Now we have to consider the social aspect. Obviously, the downstream solution requires the acquisition of a large amount of land, compulsory purchase of properties. The tunnel, very little of this, because the two ends of the tunnel are more or less in rural areas. Then we come to the question of pollution. I read a recent report in the Times newspaper that it's estimated 25,000 people each year in England die as a result of traffic pollution. Now, if we consider this merely on a pro rata basis, on the basis of population, if Dartford was an average place, then its share of this would be nearly 50 deaths a year. Actually, because it has the Dartford Crossing on its doorstep, quite likely is above this average figure. So you can see, if the downstream solution is used, this has no benefit to Dartford. Dartford remains at best what it is now, but mostly much worse. So, if you build the tunnels, of course, the pollution which occurs in the tunnel can be treated before it's discharged into the atmosphere, and of course the more free-flowing existing crossing reduces the amount of pollution. So, what are we saying, perhaps, that if the downstream solution is adopted, how many? 5, 10, 15, 20 more people per year will die in Dartford? I don't know. Probably nobody knows, but surely there would be extra deaths. So you can see on every count, the long tunnels appear to be superior to the downstream solution. But there remains one consideration, and that, of course, is cost. Now, Highways England haven't given us any details of the long tunnel scheme which they apparently costed and rejected on the grounds of cost. They designated it A14 in their consultation documents and peremptorily dismissed it. Now, is this £6.5 billion cost that they're suggesting reasonable? Well, we have no details of their scheme, so it's impossible to know. So the best I could do was to consider what's in the public domain and make my best guess. I tackled this in 4 different ways. I used 2 separate government publications to cost the long tunnels, and then the other 2 approaches were by looking at long tunnels which had been built in recent times and comparing cost on that basis. All 4 of my approaches showed results much, much cheaper than the £6.5 billion that Highways England suggest. However, in a way, the actual precise cost is a secondary consideration. because we can't continue as we are. We need a solution to the Dartford crossing problem. The tunnel appears to provide that solution. The downstream offer doesn't. So in a way, whatever the cost, we just got to bite the bullet, pay up, and get these tunnels built as soon as possible. I'll leave you with one final thought. Is there anything dearer than a bargain that doesn't work? Thank you for watching. Bye.